Greetings to whomever may be seeing this. My name is Julia Gonzalez, and I am from Earth, in a country called the United States of America. I have been given the honor and responsibility of being chosen by the United States Department, in conjunction with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, as a historian to create a time capsule that will be sent to space in the hopes that another life form may get a hold of this. It is my duty to introduce and educate those who may know nothing about the United States, about what we stand for. I will be sharing a few parts of our history in which I believe exemplifies our country's core values and ideals. The Immigration and Neutrality Act of 1965 eliminated the previous national origins quota system. This system set limits on the number of individuals in a given nation that were able to immigrate to the United States. The new immigration policy was aimed at reuniting immigrant families and attracting skilled labor to the United States. The Act itself stated on Sec. 2, Section 202, that no person shall receive any preference or priority or be discriminated against in the issuance of an immigrant visa because of his race, sex, nationality, place of birth, or place of residence. No matter where a person came from, everyone who applied for a visa had an equal opportunity of starting a new life. After this act, immigration in the United States skyrocketed. The numbers of immigrants especially rose from those of Latin and Asian countries, versus the previous quota, which was usually European. This ultimately changed the population of America forever, as it became built of many more races.
America was built by a nation of strangers from 100 different places or more. They have poured forth into an empty land, joining and blending in one mighty and irresistible tide. The land flourished because it was fed from so many sources, because it was nourished by so many cultures and traditions and peoples. And from this experience, almost unique in the history of nations, has come America's attitude toward the rest of the world.
This act demonstrates a key value in American society, which is diversity and equality. This demonstrates how Americans accept all peoples of all countries and races, and how we take pride in the integration of our cultures. This act greatly diversified American culture, making it the melting pot that it is today, and giving America a very distinct and unique culture.
Apollo 11, this is the launch operations manager. The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
The Apollo 11 was the first crewed vehicle to land on the moon, carrying astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin E. Aldrin. The spacecraft was created in order to achieve the Apollo 11 mission, which was set by President John F. Kennedy on May 25, 1961. The primary objective of this mission was to perform a crewed lunar landing and return safely back to Earth. The Apollo 11 took flight on July 16, 1969, and returned to Earth on July 24, 1969. The spacecraft actually landed on the moon on July 20, 1969. Americans watch on their televisions at home, which are devices used to show images in order to entertain and inform humans, as Neil Armstrong uttered his famous words,
169.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
As I stated previously, the landing on the moon was watched by almost all Americans on their televisions or listened to on the radio at this time. People sat in their living rooms and watched as the first human, who was American, landed on the moon. This created a sense of national pride. Patriotism is a very strong value to the American people. Everyone takes a lot of pride in their country and where they came from. This achievement demonstrates the pride and patriotism that the entire country shared.
And the fact that 600 million people around the world were either watching or listening on radio and TV as it happened is a measure of the impact that this thing had on the world's consciousness.
The Apollo 11 also demonstrates American innovation and curiosity. Americans are always looking for new technology to solve problems that they could not solve before, such as landing on the moon. The hard work it took to build and safely land the Apollo 11 exemplifies how important new discovery is for our country. When Americans see a problem, they want to solve it as quickly as possible. In 1751, the Pennsylvania Provincial Assembly paid £100 for a large bell to hang at their state house. When the bell arrived in Philadelphia, which is a state inside of the United States, it cracked during a test drive because the metal was too brittle. The bell was again rung on July 8, 1776, to celebrate the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence, which is a document where we declared our independence from a nation that once controlled us. It also previously was rung during the opening of the First Continental Congress and after the Battle of Lexington and Concord. These are two key events in American history because it was when we were in the process of gaining our independence from another nation who had previously controlled us. The bell would be called the Liberty Bell in 1830 when abolitionists used it as a symbol for freedom. The Liberty Bell has not only become a national but an international symbol of freedom. To Americans, it has become a symbol of justice, the rule of law, and guardian of rights. The bell rang during moments of great importance in protecting the freedoms of Americans, and it became a symbol of freedom to not only Americans but also to tourists that came to see the bell. This ties into our nation's ideal of freedom for all. The bell truly symbolizes this notion. Our country was built on the idea that all men are free and everyone has undeniable rights as human beings. And this bell symbolizes that idea entirely.
Those who are not employed will need more than they have needed before. Their shows have completely gone.
Eleanor Roosevelt was the wife of former President Franklin D. Roosevelt. She was very heavily involved in American politics during his presidency and after his death. She was a huge political figure, activist, and advocate of women's and equal rights. She not only advocated continuously for women's rights at home, but also abroad. She supported the advancement of women in the professional and political world, supported the rights of working-class women through labor unions and other organizations. She also pushed the United States to join and support the United Nations, which is an organization established to maintain peace among nations, and she served as the first chair of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. She was also heavily involved in formulating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights created by the United Nations. Eleanor Roosevelt was an extremely significant figure in American history. For one, she was a huge advocate of equal rights. She strongly believed that all humans are created equal no matter who they are or where they came from. She supported multiple organizations that were directed towards equal rights for all. Equality is a huge American value. We pride ourselves on the fact that we treat everybody the same no matter where you come from or who you are. Eleanor Roosevelt truly embodies this characteristic. Many Americans try to live in her image, whether they know it or not, because many of them want to give everyone equal opportunity regardless of other factors.
The world must take this way, through unity and cooperation, to a lasting peace.
The United Nations is an intergovernmental organization whose main purpose is to maintain international peace, security, develop relationships among nations, cooperate with other nations, and promote social progress and better living standards along with human rights. Former President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill had a secret meeting in 1941 where they discussed the possibility of starting an international peace effort. In 1945, the United Nations was established by 51 countries. These countries joined because the previous League of Nations, which was an organization who previously attempted to maintain peace, failed to prevent the outbreak of the Second World War.
If we had had this charter a few years ago, and above all the will to use it, millions now dead would be alive.
Today, the United States is one of the United Nations' most important stakeholders, and it provides the largest financial contribution to the United Nations' overall budget. The United States joining in an international peacekeeping body demonstrates how they want to maintain peace throughout the world and create balance between all nations. They want to work together with other nations in a peaceful way instead of war. Not only that, the United Nations also focuses on human rights issues, which the United States emphasizes on a lot. It shows how we not only want freedom and peace and equality in our own nation, but also in other nations where we see injustices. For Americans, it is extremely important that people get their undeniable rights that our country was built on. Americans also strive for peace and cooperation with other nations. Thank you for watching, and to whomever may be watching this, I hope you keep this information in mind if our paths were ever to cross.